Gentlemen, listen carefully. Every conversation you enter is a test, and most men fail before they even speak. Not because they lack kindness, not because they aren't smart, respectful, or well-intentioned. They fail because they are predictable, polished, safe, forgettable. They follow the script, they ask the right questions, they offer compliments too early, they smile too often, they speak too much but say very little, and then they wonder why they vanish from her memory as soon as the interaction ends. Here's the unfiltered truth. Modern women are not moved by polite predictability. They're moved by presence, by subtle tension, by the sensation that the man sitting across from them isn't just talking, he sees them truly and knows exactly where to guide the energy between them. In a world where women are constantly approached, constantly complimented, constantly flattered, a man only stands out when he brings emotional gravity to the table. This isn't charm, this isn't game, this is strategy. And if there's a figure from history who silently mastered this dynamic without ever writing a single word about seduction, it's Machiavelli. Why? Because he understood the deepest levers of human nature. He understood how power works in silence, how influence flows to the one who shapes perception. Today, I will give you 7 strategic communication shifts that redefine your presence as a man, not to amuse her, but to lead her, not to please her, but to provoke her emotional curiosity and psychological investment. These are not tricks, they are tactics, not to impress, but to impact. Let's begin. Shift 1. Speak to plant, not to please. The average man speaks to complete a sentence. The magnetic man speaks to create an experience. Most men communicate in straight lines. Linear, question, answer, logic. Next topic. They talk to arrive somewhere. But a high-value man speaks in curved lines. He hints, he pauses, he lets ideas hang, he opens loops and doesn't always close them. He doesn't speak to be clear, he speaks to be felt. When a woman can feel the gap between what you've said and what you've left unsaid, her curiosity ignites. That space, that tension, that's where desire grows. Modern women are flooded with words, texts, podcasts, videos, voices. But what they crave is silence between the words. They crave tension in the pauses. They crave the unknown. So here's your application. Slow down. Stop speaking like you need to be understood. Speak like you're crafting questions in her mind. Don't explain everything. Speak with weight. Speak like a man who enjoys being deciphered. When she has to lean forward, search for your meaning, or decode your tone, she becomes emotionally engaged. And when her mind locks in, her body follows. Shift 2. Leave mental triggers behind. Forget trying to win the moment. Aim to own the afterthought. Too many men try to impress during the interaction. They want the laugh, the nod, the validation. But a master communicator isn't trying to be liked. He's playing for real estate in her subconscious. That happens when you plant emotional anchors. Short, specific, disruptive. Truths or phrases that echo after the conversation ends. Example. Most men say, "You're beautiful." A strategic man says, "You're used to being seen for how you look." I wonder how often people really listen when you speak. One is a compliment, the other is a mental hook. It reverses her frame and exposes something she didn't even realize she craved. You don't need to argue. You don't need to over-explain. Just say the thing that interrupts her autopilot, then walk away. Let her imagination do the work. Because obsession isn't created through noise, it's created in the quiet after your presence. Shift 3. Redefine the frame. Don't defend against it. In conversation, especially with strong, intelligent women, you will be tested. She may tease, challenge, or provoke. Most men either become defensive or worse, they shrink. They try to placate. They submit. But the man who understands power does something very different. He doesn't resist her frame, he redirects it. Example, she says, "That's a bit arrogant." The insecure man defends. The grounded man smiles and says, "Maybe." But what do you usually do when someone doesn't give you the answer you expect? Suddenly, the spotlight is back on her, not through aggression, through strategic redefinition. You never argue. You never seek approval. You don't need the last word. You simply guide the energy. This is not about dominating. It's about being unshakable. A man who cannot be rattled earns trust. Shift 4. Stop explaining. Start transporting. The modern man talks about his goals, his job, his weekend, his past relationships. The magnetic man tells stories that pull her into a different world. When you tell a story right, you don't just inform, you immerse. And here's the psychological reason: our brains don't distinguish between imagined experience and real memory. So when you tell a story and she feels it, her body reacts as if it lived it. That's power. Example: don't say, "I went through a tough breakup." Say, "I remember standing alone in that apartment. Winter air leaking through the window. No furniture, just silence. And this quiet thought hit me. I can rebuild from nothing." That's immersion. That's vulnerability with strength. That's how you bypass her logic and activate her emotional response. Build a vault of 3-5 stories, not to brag, but to reveal the man behind the mask. Shift 5. Let silence become your leverage. Here's something most men will never do: use silence as a weapon. The insecure talk too much. They fill every pause. They overshare. Why? Because silence makes them anxious. But the confident man understands silence isn't empty. It's full of tension. He pauses. He lets his words breathe. He leaves gaps between thought and expression and watches how she responds. And she will respond with curiosity, with investment, with effort. Because nature abhors a vacuum, and so does attraction. Speak, then pause, drop a thought, then let it echo. Look at her and let her hold your gaze without flinching. These are the moments where chemistry is created, not in words, but in what surrounds them. Shift 6. She isn't the prize, you are. This one will trigger most men, but that's why it's powerful. You don't need to say she's not the prize. You need to live like you are. That doesn't mean you diminish her. It means you value your attention. You protect your focus. You assess instead of impress. Most men offer praise too early. They reward beauty before behavior. They pedestal women before knowing if she's earned that position. But a strategic man withholds conclusion, not as a game, as a standard. You make her wonder, is he impressed? Is he curious? Or is he simply being polite? That psychological tension flips the dynamic. Now she's working to earn you, and when she finally receives your approval, it means something. Because it wasn't given. It was earned. Shift 7. Upgrade her mind, not just her mood. A flirt. Anyone can flirt. But a man who makes her think differently about herself, her life, her story. That's rare. That's unforgettable. Ask better questions. Observe what she doesn't say. Reflect her in a way that sharpens her own awareness. You don't need to fix her. You don't need to teach. Just see her better than she sees herself. Machiavelli would say, influence is not loud, it's precise. When a woman leaves an interaction clearer, more thoughtful, more aware, she connects that clarity to you. And once her mind associates you with growth, her body soon desires closeness. Gentlemen, understand this. The modern man chases. The magnetic man anchors. He doesn't try to be chosen. He becomes the standard. He speaks with restraint. He acts with calm authority. He leads not through volume, but through presence. This isn't game. This is power, built through silence, revealed through control, delivered through strategic communication. Hold this standard. Live it in your posture. Embody it in your words. Lead with it in every interaction. Because once a woman feels this level of presence, this depth of masculine gravity, she doesn't want options. She wants you. Not for what you say, but for who you are.